Right now, my life is very exciting. We got this new record coming out on June 18th. We released our first single, Disruptor. The fans have reacted to it and they love it. So it's super exciting.
Dude, look, I know you're going to have a lot of media people blowing smoke up your ass going, oh man, the new album's fantastic. Oh, so, dude, this is seriously the best thing you've put your name to since Mechanized.
Yeah, after we wrote the record, I was like, after we mixed it and everything, I was like, this has a mechanized, part of it has a mechanized vibe to it, and also a Genexus vibe, musically, and sonically and how it sounds, and kind of a little bit lyrically as well, too. So, yeah, when you say the best thing to come out since Mechanized, I have to agree with you on that.
Yeah, the production actually sounds like $1 million. Like, what were some of the biggest, challenges of it?
Yeah, the challenge of putting out the GoFundMe campaign, at the end of the day, it was very successful. A lot of the fans definitely contributed, and because they wanted to see the record come out, finally, and it turned out to be very successful. So we were able to move forward and make some improvements on the record because of that. We got to hire Andy Sneap, who mixed Genexus. He's an A-list mixer. He's done a lot of big, great records. We got Mike Heller, our drummer, to put live drums on the record because previously we had programmed drums. Secondly, we were able to get Reese Fulber, our keyboard programmer, on the record because he was missing from the record. So we were able to get him back to do something on that. And Damien Reynaud, he is a engineer, producer / engineer, and he's been working with us since The Industrialist. We were able to get him back on the record. So we basically got the Genexus team back on the record to finish this record. And again, thank you to everybody who donated to the GoFundMe campaign to make this all happen. Thank you very much. Because of that, the record was able to get its much needed improvements to make it sound like $1 million. I can't wait for people to hear the final product on June 18th when it comes out.
One thing I wanted to ask was that the long-running theme through Gear Factory has been man versus machine and all that kind of stuff. That, to my mind, please correct me if I'm wrong, but that seemed to mostly come from Burton and the lyrics and stuff. And I'm just curious, is this a theme that you think you can see continuing with in his absence?
Oh, definitely. It's not just necessarily man versus machine. I always call it as the relationship between human and AI. But, we've always had that relationship between, like I said, human and AI development, where it's going, and how this technology plays a big part in our life, and how technology has made a lot of things obsolete, and how it changes in our world. I definitely want to continue it, and that's kind of like where the title Aggression Continuum comes from, is saying that, yeah, we're continuing on this record and continuing in the future as well with this style and this concept.
So are you any closer to finding a vocalist? And if you were, would you tell me?
No. No, I wouldn't tell you. No, because it's not something that you just say to somebody. This is going to be an announcement. You know what I mean? It's going to be big. So, yeah, that's about as much as I can tell you about that.
Can you give me a fake one just to drive people nuts? Like, oh, it's going to be Pee Wee Herman. Or
No, it's going to be Charlie Sheehan.
Yes. What are some of your favorite things about Tony Campos and Mike Heller?
Well, first of all, they're both very professional musicians, right? Mike Heller is a drummer that plays on a lot of people's records. He's one of those studio musicians that people hire to play on their records. He has his own studio in downtown Los Angeles where he has everything set up. He has a studio set up. Bands constantly contact him to play on their records, and that's what he does. So he's a super mega professional guy. He knows, he comes from the school of those technical death metal drummers, but he's beyond that as well. He knows, he touches up on jazz and the groove and stuff like that. So he's a very well-rounded musician, right? Then you got Tony Campos, mega professional. He's played with every band, Prong, Ministry, Soulfly, Cavalier Conspiracy, Fear Factory, Possessed, Static X. The list goes on and on and on, right? Very easygoing guy. no arguments, no complaints, easy to get along with. He's a professional. He knows all the songs. There's no time wasted in the studio when you want to work with him, right? And he's a great bass player. That's why he fits in everybody's band.
Fear Factory has worked on game soundtracks in the past. Is that something that you can see happening more in the future now that, obviously when Fear Factory first got into, Carmageddon and all that kind of stuff in the 90s, which was my childhood, video games is very niche thing. Now they are up there with blockbuster movies. It's a whole industry. Can you see Fear Factory kind of reinserting itself into that?
I would love to do that again if that ever comes about. I mean, we were really, really, really involved in the 90s with that gaming stuff. And that was because of Raymond Herrera, our drummer, would actually get the instrumentals from the records, and he would go to these gaming conventions. And he would put his card on it, and he would have a CD, and he would give it to all these gaming people. Say, "Hey, give me a call. We'll work on stuff for you, or you can license this music." Blah blah blah. And next thing you know, we started getting a bunch of calls. Fear Factory did, and unfortunately, the record company couldn't keep up with it because we were getting so many calls. Roadrunner Records at the time, so they had to develop a music placement department in the company to place music in movies and video games because of Raymond and because of Fear Factory's music. So we were in so many games, I can't even tell you how many games we were in. It was a lot. I mean, a lot. There was even one time right after we recorded Obsolete, there was a gaming company that wanted us to write specific music for a game, right? I think it was Test Drive 5. I don't remember which game it was, but they sent in a guy named Tony Tellerico. And Tony Tellerico was very popular in the gaming music industry because he was one of the main guys back in that time, back in the late 90s, mid to late 90s, right? He was one of the top guys. So he came in, we booked studio time. We all sat there with our instruments, and he came into the room, and he was like a conductor. And he was like saying, "Do this, do that, do that." Boom, boom. We were writing all these songs, all these riffs for the actual video game. And those songs came out on a compilation back in 2002 called The Hate Files. So if you want to hear those tracks that we did for that one particular game with the guy Tony Tellerico, there's like 4 or 5 songs on that compilation where they're there, so you can go hear what I'm talking about. But yeah, we were very much involved. One of the main ones is Mortal Kombat soundtrack. In 1995, we were on the Mortal Kombat soundtrack, and that really exposed us to a lot of people because that soundtrack did over 1 million copies. You know what I mean? So a lot of people, first time they were exposed to Fear Factory. I still hear it today. First time I heard he was on the Mortal Kombat soundtrack. Are you going to be on the new Mortal Kombat movie? So unfortunately we didn't get to be on the new Mortal Kombat movie, but we definitely want to say thank you to the franchise for including us on the first one because it really helped expose us to new people who would have never listened to Fear Factory before. And that was during the Remanufactured record. So that was a lot of people's first introduction to Fear Factory, that record, Remanufactured. So.
Yeah, man, I was 10 years old in 1995 and you guys were played on Rage, which was the Australian music video show. And I watched a playback of it the next day on VHS and saw the video for Replica. And I was ruined, man. I've never been the same since.
Well, first time we were in Australia, I believe, was 1994 on Fear's the Mind Killer, which is the EP after Soul of the Machine. So we were there first time in 94, and then we came back in 96. Now in 96, we had a tour booked all through Australia, but when we were in Brisbane, Bert lost his voice, right? So it was like, we played the Gold Coast, we played Brisbane, and so by the second show, Brisbane, he lost his voice. So, and we were supposed to fly to Sydney to do the next show, next day. Unfortunately, we couldn't make it to the show in time to tell people that we canceled the show. And the promoter was supposed to, tell people, but unfortunately the message came late. And so there was a lot of people that were lined up in the queue early that day in Sydney to see us. And then all of a sudden, somebody puts a sign up on the door, said show canceled. No explanation, nothing. So kids, there was a riot. They started breaking the windows of the university, and they were graffitiing and just all kinds of stuff, right? So it became national news. So our name was being mentioned, on the national news all across Australia. So we couldn't pay for that kind of news, and that really, really helped us get our name out there. So by the time we came back a few months later, sold out show across the board, bigger places, then boom, we came back again for the big day out.
Yes.
It was like, yeah. So that actual riot and that thing that happened in Australia really helped us get a gold record on Remanufactured in Australia. I would actually like to talk to the kids that they had in the news that were getting arrested. I would have liked to see that, because in the actual news story, you see kids getting arrested for breaking windows and graffitiing and stuff like that. If anybody wants to find out anything about Fear Factory, go to fearfactory.com. You will find everything there: merchandise, CDs, pre-orders, tour dates, whatever's going on with the band, you'll find it there. I'm going to say thank you very much for your time, man. I appreciate it.
No worries, man. Be good.
Have a good one.
Good night. See ya.